palace. She can talk about what all that was like.
Absolutely. It was a very different lifestyle, but when you get into the book, you find that although they had from the outside a different lifestyle, from the inside, it's just like every other family. There was dinner time, there was protocol and fights between siblings and, you know, little groups that would emerge among the kids that were living in the palace at the time. So, you know, some kids would say, oh, well, you're a girl, you can't play soccer. And she would say, what? What do you mean I can't play soccer?
Yeah.
Oh my
So there were all kinds of things, and there are so many personalizing elements of the text. She's such a great communicator. She's a great author.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
because I mean, you know, it seems so far away and so far removed from our everyday life, but not so much. You actually have a review on the back of her book.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you take away from the book?
Her experiences in understanding different cultures, in understanding her own identity, forming her own identity, in an environment that was a little bit different than what she saw at home. And I took away from that this experience of finding yourself in that environment. And a lot of people feel that way, particularly in a very globalizing world. There are a lot of people that will relate to the fact that there are parts of who you are that are a mainstay.
Right.
There are cultural things that are a mainstay. On the Eastern Shore, you find it all the time. The Eastern Shore is the Eastern Shore. It is a culture in and of itself. And as the world globalizes, it wants to maintain its culture, but at the same time, not reject those things that are emerging, that are helping to advance it as a community.
Well, then let me ask you this. Why is she making Salisbury a priority?
Well, there's a very, you know, our university is amazing. Salisbury University is a great institution. And SU has invited her to come and give a lecture. Dr. Joe Venosa is in the history department. The history department is one of the lead sponsors of the program. So Dr. Venosa teaches history and specifically focuses on sub-Saharan Africa and the Nile River civilizations and the Middle East. So their role, the Ethiopian monarchy, is...
We start skating together every Sunday at the parking lot in Sarbet.
We used to skate in the parking lot with all the struggles of local bullies coming and taking away boards from little kids. But that was kind of our spot. That's where we started.
You know, this is the founding skate spot. This is where Ethiopia Skate started skating from scratch, you know? Since 2012. That was the first day I skated with these dudes. We held the first skate competition here, and that was, we brought 1/4 pipe made of bamboo, we brought a rail, we brought, and like one kicker, I think, you know what I'm saying? That's all we needed to have a skate competition.
The first time I came to Ethiopia was in 2011, and I was doing projects for a nonprofit that was dealing with health issues in the countryside, and then randomly met these kids skating on the street. There was like maybe 20 of them sharing 5 boards. I was like taking pictures of them skating, and they were like, why don't you help us make a skate park? Like, we really need it. I don't know. That day, I actually like canceled my flight, and I just stayed for 6 more months. We made a collaboration with a German skate park building company called Make Life Skate Life. And we did an online fundraiser, and after that it was easy. We got about 60 volunteers from more than 20 countries. We all lived in the same kind of big house, and in 16 days we built around a 600 square meter concrete skate park, our first skate park in Ethiopia.
Skate park is fire.
I remember 5, 6 years ago, nobody knew what a skate park was. Now,
I'm not meant to understand Rastafarianism. Despite the fact that as a young man I made the very regrettable decision of growing dreadlocks, it isn't a religion for me. The experiences it details aren't mine. My family immigrated to the New World intentionally. We could read the Bible in our own language. We could come to the culture on our own terms. My family could have farms, we could have shops, we could even have one of our progeny become an important national icon. Certainly, we had our hardships, but our struggle was mostly against nature, not man. And because of this, our religion was primarily against nature as well. Prayers were saved for harvest time and meals. Church was too far from the farm, so it lost its importance in the routine. Those of my family that sustained their beliefs through the generations did so with confidence that their God viewed them as most important. Though Garvey was an undeniable racist. He was a black supremacist and best understood the world through the lens of race war. His response to being raised as a second-class citizen was not to fight for equalization, but separation. In a liberated Africa, he proposed, black men could be free to rule as they pleased, to achieve on their own merits, to conquer, subjugate, and oppress other races as had been done to them. He didn't have the same dream as Martin Luther King Jr. He dreamed of segregation. And to this end, he would continue the work of white racists in populating the American colony of Liberia, starting an ocean liner meant to bring back as many black Americans to the African continent as possible. The goal was to be separate, but it was certainly not to be equal. And although these words of division stab me and probably many of you like a dagger, much like the Rastafarianism that would branch from them, they were never really meant for me. He was speaking to the black people once enslaved in the Americas, and it was in those populations where some people began to heed his call, especially among the
abroad. Jerusalem, Alexandria, Paris, Brussels, Amsterdam, Stockholm, London, Geneva, and Athens were among the places he visited. When Emperor Zewditu died on the 2nd of April 1930, Selassie himself rose to emperor and was proclaimed King of Kings of Ethiopia. This was actually when he took on the name Haile Selassie, which means Might of the Trinity. Up until this point, he was known by his given name of Liege Tafari Makonnen. He was crowned on the 2nd of November 1930 at Addis Ababa's Cathedral of St. George. The coronation was attended by royals and dignitaries from all over the world. As ruler, he instituted the first written constitution of Ethiopia on the 16th of July 1931 and made efforts to modernize the country. In 1935, his efforts were cut short when Benito Mussolini of Italy invaded Ethiopia. He tried to resist the invaders with some of the feudal lords supporting him, but some others sided with the invaders. His army claimed a victory at Tigray at the Battle of Tembien in 1936. However, the victory was short-lived as the Italians reinforced and overcame them by using mustard gas after the battle. The Ethiopian army retreated to Mechu, where they had their final stand. Afterwards, Ethiopia became occupied by Italy and lost its national independence. Selassie was forced into exile. The Ethiopians continued fighting the Italians by waging guerrilla war. Selassie appealed to the League of Nations for help in a speech that got worldwide acclaim at that time, but was unsuccessful. He then requested help from Britain. During the period of his exile, Haile Selassie suffered